Hi, I thought in this video I'd go over the concepts of making a symbol again. I know I've done it before, but some things have changed since I last did this about the way that you can use the symbol. So first off, I want to create a symbol up, and what I'll do is I'll go into my trees class, and I'm going to use one I call canopy, which is just a light green. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to make up, well, first, before I do that, let's just have a quick look, and just to make sure that the layer that I'm on, which is design layer 1, is 1 to 100. I'm just going to set everything up for a 1 to 100 with the text and everything, so it just makes it look right. So let's go down and do the tree canopy class, and I'm going to go into a circle. And let's just make sure that I'm in more or less the right area with the thing, and let's just put a circle up, drop down my info palette and go back to the diameter, and I'm going to make it a meter. You'll see why in a second. Let's just enlarge that up so we've got something there. So I've got a let's just put that out of the way. So I've got a nice circle there, a meter. Go into my selection tool, and it's a light green. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to go into my freehand tool and enlarge that up just a touch, and I'm going to start putting in a nice freehand line around it using the circle they've put as a template. And the reason why is simply because trees canopies are never circular. They've always got some sort of nice rough edge to them, and what I'll do, I'll take off that guide now, and there I've got my outline for a tree, and it's a meter wide. I'll just test that by going across there, and it should be somewhere around a meter. What does that say? A meter, bang on. Oh, I'm good. Okay, what I'll do now is I'm going to go into the trees class again. I'm going to choose infill. Now what I tend to do is when I'm making a symbol up like this, I'll make one for autumn, summer and winter. So the summer one is obviously a nice green, and the winter one, well, a dull grey or something like that, and the autumn one a nice light brown or something. But it's summer, so I'm going to make one up for summer. So again, I'm going to go into the freehand tool, and I'm going to use the outline of the canopy. I'm going to leave it there, but I'm just going to use it as an outline, and what I like to do is I like to put these little jaggedy things around just to show that it's a tree, and I quite like these. They just show that it's a nice tree, and more or less pointing into the centre and back up again, and it just looks like a decent tree. And we're coming up really to the end now, and I'm going to go back up to there and somewhere around there, and we've got ourselves a nice tree. So what I want to do now is I want to put some shadow onto this tree. So what I'll do is I'll highlight it, just go out of it and go back in again and highlight it. Edit, copy. I normally use the keyboard for doing that, and then paste in place. So I've got one on top of the other, so to speak. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to drop down my object info palette, and I will use the tree infill one, and I'm going to change it to another class that I've already drawn up, and I've called it shadow, and I'm going to put it down like that. So let's just go and push that up a bit. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to send that to the back, and it's still highlighted, and I'm going to pull it out of the way a little bit and down across as a nice shadow. Now in the UK that's about late early evening, and let's just pull it as a bit more down like that. So the sun is over here shining, we're putting a shadow on. Use the tool and just click out, and I've got myself now three things. I've got the tree, I've got the outline of the canopy, which I can do separately on its own, and I'm going to put in, well, I'll tell you what I'm going to do now is I'm going to put a loci in for the center point of the tree. And then again I'm going to go down to my class, and I'm going to put up, I'm sure I had loci. No, where am I going? Timber, tree, wrong one. There we go. And I've got a loci point that I like to use, and if I put my loci in there, and I'm going to put my loci, I'm going to put it there. So I've got a loci in the center of the tree as part of it. I'm also going to put a few branches on. I quite like branches on my trees. So if I go down to that, go down to my trees, and you can see I've got branch, which I know is an infilled one, and then branch with no fill. So I'm going to use that, and I'm going to go back up to here, and I'm going to put a couple of branches sticking out like that, and I'm going to put another one, just a little one like that, just as something to make it look good. Okay, we've now got ourselves a nice symbol. Now what I want to do is I want to create that symbol, into this object, or what I've drawn, the tree, into a symbol. So modify, create symbol. I'm going to call it Steve's sample tree. Next mouse click is where I want to put the insertion point, and I click OK, and the loci is where I want to use it, and I'm going to put it into my trees and press OK. So we've now got ourselves a nice symbol. Now just before we carry on, let's go back to that thing about making this a meter wide, because if I go into the object info palette and drop it down, look at this, scaling. Now at the moment there's no scaling involved whatsoever, but if I press that down and go towards symmetrical, in other words equal, there's a scaling factor of 1. So if I have a meter, then the factor is still a meter. If I go to say 3 there and press enter, you can see this tree immediately drops up, and if I go across there again to somewhere about there and go up, it's almost 3 meters, 37 millimeters out. So that's fine with me. So you can see what's happening is that if I want to make the tree bigger, because I know the canopy is bigger, then I can use the scaling factor to push it up. I know the tree is a meter, so if I use a scaling factor of 3, it's 3 meters, 3.5, 3.5 meters, and so on. Now trees are never symmetrical. There's always something about them that says there's one side bigger than the other. So what we could do is go into asymmetric and do, say, a 4 meter or 6 meters on one side and 3 on the other, and it shoots it around. Now that's great if I've got a canopy and I use just the canopy tool. I think that's really cool. So there's the way to do it, and I'm quite happy with using that, and I've used it several times in some big gardens with just one symbol. It covers all my needs. So go back and put none up at the moment, because that's what I want to use to show you how to do the rest of the tree. So what else can I do? Well, I want to put some text down here. So the first thing I really need to do is to go onto the database side. So the first thing I need to do is to go and drop down the resource browser, Untitled 1, and you must be at the top level for this to work. So therefore I go over there and I just go down and I want to new resource in Untitled 1. Or I want to call it record format. And I want to call this Steve's, what do I want to call it? Steve's tree resource. Don't do anything yet. Press new. I want to put a new field in here, and I want to use text. Now it's sometimes when you're putting these fields together, you think it's all going to be numbers or text. Well, often as not, it's not. It's a mixture of both. So use text. It's a lot easier. Now I'm going to call this an accession number, because when you're making up tree records, you always got to something that's unique to that tree, and it's called the accession number. And because I may use text and numbers to record that tree, I'm going to leave it as text. Now the default is something that says to you a reminder of what you're supposed to put into that particular field. Now for tree accession numbers, I always use the year and a number. So it's 2013-001. So now I've got Steve's tree resources, accession number, and it's a text. I want to use another one because I want to put in the Latin name of the tree. Now, because I can't use Latin very well, I'm just going to call it Latin name there. And again, I just want text on that. And just because not many people can speak Latin, we're going to we'll put it in common name. And again, text. And this one I'm going to put oak. Now I happen to know that the Latin name for oak is quercus, but I can't spell it, so we'll leave it as Latin. So press that's OK. So I've got Steve's tree resource, and I've built up a database with 3 fields, and there's the default values, and it's all looking pretty good. Now let me just do that and press OK. Now if you look down the bottom of here somewhere, you'll see somewhere that it's put in. I have to usually just find it. There it is. Look, those are all the different record formats I've got in there. I've got one already which I did as a practice for Steve's tree list, and this one's Steve's tree resource. That's the one we're going to use. So let's just put that up out of the way, and let's double click on the tree. It's a 2D component, and just before I go on, just have a look. It's in layer plane. Now I always draw my symbols now in layer plane, just for the point where I actually do turn into 3D drawings. It's a lot easier. So going back to this, double click on it. I want to edit a 2D component, and there you can see my lovely tree. So what I'm going to do now is, before I do anything else, I'm going to put some text on here just to get things done. So what I will try and do here is I'm going to go into let's tools, let's go text, size of the font. I want about let's look at 10 and put down this, and there it looks about right. I'm going to put this one, if this is the accession code, and I'm only going to do the one just to show you how you do it. So I want to put down accession number. Ooh, what did I do wrong? Question for the day. I didn't change away from then. I want to do this. I want to do text. I want a class. Rule 1. Change the class every time you draw. And if you can't remember, then use the object info palette to change it later. But I did remember. So what I'm going to do now is I've got a text class for tree accession number. So I'm going to use that. And my good lady's brought me a cup of tea. So I'm going to use the text because I know it's the right size, and I'm going to put it up there, and accession number. Let's click out of it, and that's a little bit that's a little bit big. Let's drop down the object info palette, and then let's change that. Let's put that down to about 8, shall we? That looks about good to me. In fact, what I'm going to do also is, instead of putting that down, I'm going to put the actual number down. And I want it centered on the whole thing, and the rest of it will be fine. So let's just click out of that, and you can see where it's going to be. And I'm going to put that and use the shift and the arrows apple just to put this into more or less where I want to see it. And I'm still happy with 8 point. Let's just leave it at that. Right. Now we're inside the symbol still. I want to click out of it, and I just want to highlight just the symbol itself. I want to go up to my object info palette, and I want to go to the data, and I want to do this one here. I want to assign it to this resource, Steve's tree resource. And as you can see, as soon as I've done it, I've got the accession number, the Latin name, and the common name all linked in. And I could have more of these if I wanted to. The height of the tree, the canopy spread, all sorts of things. I can have a whole list of things that I can use as part of this. Don't put too much on, because that's the whole point of the database being separate away from the actual symbol database within the Vectorworks file. Put enough on to make the drawing work, and then we'll put the rest of it, the more important stuff, all the reports and everything else you want to put on, outside in FileMaker. So now we've done that, let's have a quick look and see what we've got. We've got the tree, we've got it assigned to the database, And there's all the fields within the database, and we can put more on as we want. And if you want to change it later on, you can do that in there. There's the record info. So let's click out of that, and you can see it just goes back to where it was before. Now, the text is a little different. Highlight the text and go into Tools, Records, Link Text to Record, and click on it. Now it says, that's the one I want to put on, and there's the accession number that I want to assign to it. It's a little different, you just have to remember that. So press OK, and let's edit the symbol. So there we go. There's my symbol in place on the drawing, and you can see it's 1 to 100, so it's quite a small little tree. And there's the, if I click out of it, there's the information. As soon as I click onto it, it says I'm associated to that record. There's all the information that I can use for that tree, and there's only one that I want to change at the moment because that's all I've got in there. And let's put down there and go into that and change that to, say, it's tree number 2013-10. Press enter, and there's the information. That is now recorded for that tree and that tree alone. If I want to use the tree again in another place, then we go down to here, and it was trees, and it's which one was it? I can't remember. There's the one, Steve Sample Tree, and it's that one. As you can see, I've got loads of different trees, but as soon as you drag it out and put it in, it goes back to the original default. So still highlighted. I want the accession number. I want to change that to, say, let's make that 22, and the tree number has changed. So I've got 2 records in my system that I can use. Okay, so there we go. Just a simple setting up of a symbol. It happens to be a tree in this particular case. I've used classes wisely because I've got the shadow, I've got the outline of the canopy, and let's just have a quick look at that and see how that works. And let's use navigation just to drop that down. Let's go right down to my trees where we are now. I've got branches on there, so let's just move that out of the way just a touch and we can see what happens. So I've got branches, let's just switch that off. I've got branch with no fill, which is the one that I had before. Now, can you see what's happened? The tree has disappeared. Why was that? Because I placed the tree in the wrong class. If I look at the tree now and go back into the object info palette, its class, the placement of the symbol, is tree branch with no fill. So let's go back up to here into the organization. I want to go into my classes. I want tree, and the shortcuts of using the keyboard doesn't work. Now, I've got, where are we now? Tree color and no, tree placement, live and dead. Okay, so I've got 2 classes already set up. So let's cancel that. Go back up into here. Go back up into the class, into the info palette. Go down to the tree. And I want to do where was it? Tree placement. I've got it actually under a different class heading. So I want to put this under there, tree placement, and there live. And the same goes for that. I don't want to save this at the moment. I want to do that. I want to do tree placement live. So those and that one under the same class. Now, if I go back to the navigation palette and I start to switch things off, in other words, the branch I don't want, the branch with no fill I don't want on, I want to keep the canopy, I want to take the infill off, and I want to take the shadow off. Now, I've got a very simple drawing set up where I can have all the outline of the buildings and everything else and just the canopy shown. Very useful. There you go. I've set it up now for a nice database. We've linked it to a symbol and we've linked the text, and I can put 2 or 3 down here. And don't forget, you can edit that and make the text a little smaller if you so desire. And I've got 8 point there. Let's take it down to about 6, shall we? And see both of them are changing at the same time. Maybe I want that a little smaller, and let's put that down to 4. I'll leave it at that. Put the resource browser out of the way and edit the symbol. And there you have a nice symbol attached to a database, ready to use. Now in the next one I'll look at using spreadsheets to list all the trees and their accession numbers and the information, and the one after that, or even the same one maybe, I'll show you how to export that and then use it within FileMaker, and we can create an even bigger database and the reasons why. Have a great day. Cheers. Bye.